What's up, guys? I'm LQ. This is the LQ Review. Thank you so much for being here at my YouTube channel. This is where we talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that we love to talk about. That includes movies and video games and comic books and TV shows. And right now, I want to talk about Expedition X Episode 3. So, this is a Josh Gates show, right? It's kind of a spin-off of Expedition Unknown, which I love Expedition Unknown. So this is definitely a spin-off of that. But Josh Gates, instead of being the field person in this, he's more of the host. He introduces us to whatever they're investigating in this episode, and he checks in periodically throughout the hour, and he is there at the end to wrap it up. So Josh Gates is very much the host. So he's got two field researchers in this, and one of them is a skeptic, and one of them is a believer. So it's very much in the vein of like the X-Files, right? And the first episode, they went looking for the Mothman. Loved that episode. The second episode, they were looking for the Tek Tek, which is kind of the Cambodia Bigfoot. I liked it, but it was very familiar. It felt like every other Bigfoot hunting show that there is on TV. So in this episode, they investigated Doll Island. It's an island in Mexico. And this episode was great. This episode was great, and probably because, other than an episode that he did, I think in Destination Truth, that Josh Gates did in Destination Truth, there really isn't a lot out there about Doll Island. And it's this really creepy island in Mexico where there's dolls hanging all over the place, and they're said to be the vessels of demons, or the vessels of evil spirits. And there's actually some deaths tied to the island. A little girl died clutching her doll. She drowned in one of the canals, or she drowns. Maybe it's the ocean. She died in a body of water off this island. And she died clutching the doll. And that was where the first caretaker, he hung this doll up. And then ever since then, we've had more and more and more dolls hung up. Well, that first caretaker, he eventually died in the exact same spot that girl died. Had a heart attack, fell in the water, and drowned. So there's a lot of death tied to this island, but there's a lot of weirdness as far as the dolls are concerned. So the investigators go to this island. By the way, Expedition X, for those who don't know, Expedition X is kind of like Destination Truth was. In Expedition Unknown, Josh is searching for known artifacts, things that we know exist, or things that are so rooted in our history that they probably exist or at one time existed. So that's kind of what Expedition Unknown is about. Expedition X is more along the lines of like cryptids and ghosts. So very much in the vein of Destination Truth. So the two researchers, they go to Doll Island and they do their initial investigation during the day. And one of the researchers, the girl, I forget the girl's name. The boy's name is Phil, but the girl, I forget her name. But she has this breakdown. She's completely overcome with emotion. She starts crying. And at the same time that this happens, some of the cameras go out. Creepy, but I'm a skeptic. I'm a skeptic also. Now, I'm a skeptic who is not a non-believer. You got to show me, right? Show me that these things exist, and I'll get on board with you. So it was weird, but it's not like it's hard proof. Somebody being overcome with emotion and a camera going out is far from being proof. Still an interesting occurrence. And Phil, he is going into the canal and the water in the area with a little submarine, trying to discover if there's gas that's coming up out of the water that could be causing hallucinations. And that's why people who come to the island see things and hear things. And he does discover that there is gas coming up out of the water. But he also discovers that it's not enough gas to cause human hallucination. It's just not at that level. So the caretaker of the island, he doesn't want them to stay overnight because he is afraid for their well-being. He doesn't want anybody to get hurt. Oh, that's so nice of him. So Josh, he calls in backup. He calls in this professional paranormal investigator who carries some, I guess he carries some weight in the paranormal world, to go with them. And because this professional is there with them, now the caretaker is okay with them spending the night on his island. And that's what they do. So they stay the night on the island, and there are some weird things that happen while they're on the island, staying the night. She's the one that had the experience, so they actually put her in the room with the little girl's doll and lots of other dolls. and they put her in the room by herself, and they leave her there for half an hour. And she starts to hear some noises. They start to see some shadows on the cameras. But the weirdest thing that happened, and I'm sure that there's a logical scientific explanation for it, but it was weird nonetheless. Actually two things. The first thing was one of the dolls that's hanging up, it started swaying back and forth. None of the other dolls around it were, and there were lots of dolls hanging there, and only one started swaying back and forth. And the light flickered on and off, the light that illuminated her so the cameras could see her. And so it flickered off, then it flickered on, and then she asked it to do it again. She asked it to flicker on and off again, and it did. It did on command. So that was weird, right? That's not something that happens every day. They eventually switch out the lights to make sure there's not a problem with the wiring or anything like that, and the other light doesn't do that. So maybe it was a problem with lighting or something like that. Still very interesting. When it comes down to it, this is just an interesting place. Doll Island is just an interesting place, and I'd like to learn more about it. That's what this episode did for me. It spurred my interest in this place, because this is a place that's very creepy. What would possess somebody to hang up thousands of dolls in trees, on fences, inside houses, on the outside of house? I mean, who would do that? That's weird. There's something weird happening there as far as the mentality of the caretakers of this island. And we also know that near this island, is an Aztec sacrificial site where human sacrifices were made. And while I don't believe in ghosts, I don't believe that somebody dies and becomes a ghost. I don't believe that. But I do believe in evil manifestations. I mean, I'm not really a skeptic in that. I believe that demons can manifest. And something that it just makes me wonder if that kind of evil could manifest another kind of evil. I don't know. So you can laugh at me all you want because I believe in some sort of supernatural, but I don't think that you can. I believe in God. I believe in God, and I don't think you can believe in God without believing in the opposite of God. I don't think you can believe in good without believing in evil. They both exist. So I don't know. I just found all that to be really interesting. It was a really interesting place that I want to learn more about. So overall, this was a really entertaining episode of Expedition X. They didn't prove anything. They really didn't find any hard evidence of any kind whatsoever, but it was still an interesting narrative. The story that they told was an interesting one that kept me engaged throughout the entirety of the episode, unlike the last one with the Tech, where I just felt like it was stuff that we'd seen before. So like this, thought it was on par with the first episode. So I give it a passing grade. What did you think of Expedition X episode 3, the Doll Island episode? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your take on it. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. I got a lot of content that I put out. Want to make sure you're up to date with what I'm doing. And as always, thank you so much for being here at the OQ Review, where we talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that we love to talk about. And until next time, we'll see you later.